All right, Larry, it's May, spring market, and we have a habit of talking long on our videos, so let's jump right in it. What are you seeing?
All right, buddy. So if we look back at what happened in April, there were some positives that came out of April. We had a little bit of an uptick.
Hmm.
A lot of the I don't know what you want to call them, but a lot of the realtors out there today are going to be running around screaming, "Oh, the market's on fire! It's multiple offers and all this happening." Yeah, you can make that happen in any market depending what you do with your price and everything else. If I look at year-to-date numbers, we're running at about par, and I think a lot of it was made up from the shortfalls of February and March. So we did see a little bit of an uptick. I've seen a lot more flexibility in pricing to bring a lot of these deals together. We've seen some pretty steep discounts on some properties, but yeah, overall, I mean, we did see some business happen in April, which is a good sign. I'm certainly not going to jump on the bandwagon that the market's on fire or anything like that. I don't think we're there today, and I think if anything, it's probably going to be a little bit short-lived because
Yeah.
nothing has changed economically. Interest rates stayed the same. We're still in an economic war with the U.S. The U.S. is still in a war with Iran, and we're still here trying to sell houses.
Yeah, even when they say they've won the war, the oil, depending on the day, flows or doesn't flow. But yeah, I think you're right. We're still in a bit of a buyer's market. Things do vary a bit by price point and market, and we've looked at the data across many communities, and they don't all tell the exact same story. But by and large, months of inventory still seems to suggest that we're, if not balanced, leaning towards buyer's market.
It's
Um,
optimistic of you.
yeah. Um, I only say that because there are a couple spots where you would say, okay, well, that looks a bit more balanced.
Well, honestly, John,
But
I mean, I don't think we've seen the amount of inventory coming online that people have been expecting. We've heard a lot
well,
of
yeah,
people
that's it
say,
right there.
yeah, like we hear a lot of people say they're waiting for the spring market, but I don't think a lot of those people have jumped in yet. I think they've been watching what's going on and they've chosen to continue to sit on the sidelines. So I don't think it's anything more than the fact that inventory has slowed down.
Yeah, frankly, I think it's a good thing that some sellers have chosen to stay out of the market and let some of the current inventory get absorbed. Because if you get a flood of inventory and you don't have buyers to absorb it,
Yep.
you're going to have longer days on market and you're going to have lower price points.
And John, one of the things that you probably noticed I changed a few months ago is we were tracking new listings every month, and changed it over to active listings. One of the reasons I
Yeah.
did that is because so many properties have been relisted over even the last couple of years, that it looks like we have this big amount of new listings come on the market, but all they are is cancel and relists or expired and relists. By changing it to active listings, it's giving a much better picture of what's been happening in those neighborhoods. You can see the consistency in how long these homes are sitting out there. So we haven't seen the growth on that end, which tells us that those true new listings haven't come to fruition yet.
No, no.
And that's been pretty consistent across most neighborhoods. Now, what I will say is we have seen some neighborhoods that have been, you know, quite slow for quite some time that had a little bit of an uptick in April. And again, that's making up for a bit of backlog that we had there, I think, in buyers. But when I look at it today, um, I don't see anything significant happening out there that's telling me that the market's changing directions anytime soon.
No, we've seen listings where they've tried different strategies. In particular, of late, I'm seeing a few where there's that list low strategy and hold offers. Doesn't seem to be working quite as well as people would like to think it might, which is not surprising, frankly, under the current market conditions. But that doesn't mean houses aren't selling in multiples or with multiple offers. It's just if you priced it right, it's reasonable that two parties might like the same house, and then
Yeah.
you end up with a couple offers. Is it going to mean the price goes crazy? No, it means somebody's going to make theirs just slightly better than the other.
We've seen those scenarios play out where
Yeah.
the homes haven't even sold for the asking price, even in multiples.
Yeah, I got an update this morning on a property my clients were interested in. Two offers. They were too eager to look at those offers that they wouldn't wait for us to get through it. And it sold 15 grand under asking, despite having two competing offers.
Yeah.
And they didn't wait for us to participate. And I bet you we would have paid a little bit more.
Well, I mean, that's sellers looking at the market out there saying, a bird in the hand's better than two in the bush, I guess. And we got something here right now. You also don't know what their financial situation is. But one of the other things that I have noticed, there are a lot of power sales that have been popping up lately on the MLS. A lot. There's also been a number of properties out there where the sellers are upside down to the point where they can't keep up with the monthly payments of carrying the property, and they got to get out. So they've been far more flexible. I was looking at a property with a client last month. We didn't go on it. We went on another property, but that property, the messaging from the agent is, yes, we're flexible. We're already upside down. Obviously, they want to get the best they can, but the seller needs to sell. So you're seeing a lot of that happen out there, and I don't think that's going to slow down with so many mortgages still coming up for renewal. You're still going to see more of that coming.
Yeah, and they're not going to get a lot of reprieve on that either because bond market is up and the fixed rates have actually gone up a little bit the last couple
Yeah,
of months.
Yep. Now, from what I've heard after the last rate announcement, if you listen to the messaging coming out of the Bank of Canada, maybe later this year we'll see a little bit of a cut to interest rates. Maybe, depending what's happening.
Maybe. It could also go the
Um,
other way. You could see a couple increases.
you could, but I mean, I don't think there's any indicators pushing that. But the one thing that I'm hearing from mortgage brokers is that they're anticipating that we will see some mortgage relief towards the later part of the year. How that affects things, I don't know if it will or not. I mean, hasn't moved the needle for us in the last several years.
No, but at the end of the day, I'd rather see it go down than go up. And right now, like I've got five clients in my or five parties that I'm working with with just one mortgage broker at various stages in the pipeline, and he's telling me that some of them are starting to ask a lot more questions and get more serious about getting moving on their file because their rate hold is coming due. And
Yeah.
and and the next, if they have to, if they don't hold that low rate, whatever they've got secured right now, locking in a new one today would actually be a little bit higher than what they've got locked in
Hmm.
currently.
Well,
So
we were just below 4% a couple of months ago, and now
yeah,
we're like mid fours, aren't we?
yeah. I mean, it depends on the client file, obviously, but
Yeah.
for the most part, yeah, you were right around four, maybe even a touch under that, and now you're probably on a 5-year fixed. Yeah, I don't know, 4.4, 4.5, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
And maybe if, depending on your situation, might even be a little bit higher.
Yeah. So,
But
John, something that I ran into in the past that I've really, just because of all these things we're talking about with these mortgages coming due and people being underwater, um, and a number of the properties I've been looking at lately have been significantly reduced from where they originally listed, and a lot of them rebuilds or renovations. One of the things that I have been looking into on these listings before we put in offers is I've been pulling mortgage reports on them to find out where people stand. Because
oh, you
right
have to.
now, there's people out there that are trying to sell their home and they're underwater, and the bank's not going to let them off the hook if they're current on their mortgage, even though they're underwater on their value. So you got to be very careful. If you're
Well,
buying a
if they
house for
if they
less
can't
than,
pay out the difference, that property can't close.
nope. And the bank's not going to negotiate with the sellers on a loss for the bank if they're not in arrears on the mortgage or in jeopardy on the mortgage. The bank's not going to do that, nor are they going to allow them to carry an unsecured portion of that mortgage. So,
Hmm.
you got to be very careful if you're buying today. You got to make sure you're doing your due diligence and you're checking to find out financially where the seller stands. Are they going to actually be able to close on that property that you're trying to buy? Because
Yeah, it's
that's been
it's kind of
happening a
crazy
lot
to
lately.
think about, but essentially they can't afford to sell.
Yeah, that's a new thing. We can't
Yeah,
afford to sell our house. Can you believe that?
yeah.
But it's a reality.
So anyway, hopefully there's some reprieve. I agree with you. I'd like to see the rates come down a little bit. I just don't think we're going to see it wildly change, if
Not
all.
until I don't think we'll see anything over the course of summer. Maybe
No.
if they get this thing sorted out in the Middle East, where they can open up the flow of
Yeah, the
oil again,
markets
it'll
feel better
start.
about things, I guess.
Yeah,
But for
but
now, I don't foresee any major
no,
change.
I agree. So I mean, my messaging on where we are and where we've been is it's a lot of status quo, man. There was a few silver linings last month, but I'm not running off to the bank for anything myself right now. I don't believe there's anything, any kind of a positive trend happening at the moment.
No, a little bit more activity, but nothing like we've seen in past years, that's for sure.
Yeah. So,
Um, so
but
anyway,
I'm
hopefully more of the same. Hopefully we see a bit of continued growth through May and into June.
yeah,
By the time we get to about mid to late June, though, chances are we're starting to wind down for the summer, at least statistically.
yeah,
So we got about a month and a half of hopefully positive activity happening,
yeah.
and see how it plays out.
Well, I mean, right now you got to be flexible, adaptable, and maneuverable,
Yeah,
and be prepared to work on things to get things to happen. And right now, that's around pricing, that's around access, availability, that's around closing dates. I mean, everything you got going on right now, you got to be prepared to maneuver and flex and try to accommodate wherever you can if you're working on a deal, because that can make the difference in getting a deal done or not.
everything I've been working on lately has required everything you just listed.
Yeah. So, all
So
right, man, we'll keep it up and let's see what May looks like. Hopefully, we have another positive month and we got more good news to share. Hopefully, or at least 2 consecutive months we can put back to back. That'd be nice.
yeah, that would be great.
Yeah.
Okay, well, until next month, happy selling, and we'll talk soon.
All right, bud. All the best.